Alright, just wanted to do a quick video here. I'm going to be going over NIO and Tesla just because I see an interesting spot that Tesla's at, and NIO has just pushed up drastically over the past couple of trading days. So I just want to do just a brief little analysis, a little recap of what both stocks have been doing here as of recent. So let's go ahead and jump into NIO. Moving into the hourly chart, so you can see kind of what it's been doing here over the past 4 trading days. You can see we finally bounced off this 260 mark, broke through the 280 resistance, also the 268 resistance, broke through the 3 with no issue whatsoever. The buyers were just rolling in. We made it a shade above the 325 mark. Right around here in the 332, maybe 334 was the high. Yeah, 334 was the high here. Pulled back down, gained support here around 315, and then rallied again today up to that 350 mark. And I think that 350 mark is going to be a little bit of a tough resistance to get through. You can see we actually touched it a couple of times today. You can see here, and then we just really couldn't poke through it. Just lots of sellers right in there. So to be, you need to be mindful of this 350 resistance. Maybe even if we pop through it by a penny or 2 pennies, we could see it sell down, say to that 325 level again. But I mean, big move here on NIO, and I wanted to point out, how we could have had an indication that NIO was fixing to pop. So I had spoke about how NIO here on the weekly chart was getting close to this 9-day moving average, which we haven't seen it above here on the weekly chart since we had our tops back here in March. So it has been some time, about 4 months, since we've seen NIO trade above this 9-day moving average here on the weekly chart. So to see it pop and significantly go through it, and now to start the week on a green note to push upward is a very bullish sign here on NIO, but it does have some work that it still needs to put in. Again, here on the yearly chart, we'll just move it in a little bit tighter. You can see we held above the 9-day moving average. Sorry, these trend lines are in the way, kind of blocking some of these candlesticks. But you can see we broke above the 9-day moving average here on the 1-day, 1-year chart. And then we broke through the 50, and now we are closing in on the 100-day. And I just want to point out, the fact that we are sitting at 350, which is a resistance. So if we see a sharp reversal tomorrow, or even, it could just be a minor reversal down here to this 325 mark, I would not be surprised if people started taking profits. If you measure this out, we're up over 30% on this move over a very short period of time. So I would not be surprised if this were to pull back down, say to the 325, maybe even down here around the 312 mark. So right in here. So we're talking about roughly, that would be a 6% drop, maybe down to a 9% drop. Now, I don't think we'll see it all in one day drop back below 3, but, I just want to, point this out that we are sitting at a resistance here at 350, so I'll draw it in for you. Sitting at a resistance, okay, we are overbought here on the 4-hour chart, which if we zoom it out, we haven't really been overbought in some time, but each time we are overbought, you can see here, we kind of pushed up and then we eventually fell. Right here, we were overbought, we fell, overbought again, right in here, not by much, but then we ended up falling. So we are overbought here, so I'd like to see us pull down a little bit, hopefully not pop down below the $3 mark, But see us pull down, gain some support, consolidate, and then rally back up. And my real target here is the $4 marker. I guess actually, let's keep it on this 4-hour chart and we'll just zoom it in a little bit. So the $4 marker is pretty important. You can see that was our last little support. You can see we bounced below it, tried to pull back above it, and eventually we just failed. Dropped all the way from 4 down to 350 pretty quickly, and then from 350 we dropped all the way down to 3, and that was in the course of 2 days. So I'd really like to see us up here at 4. That would be the uppermost target before I would really say, okay, I'm wanting to take some off the table. And maybe just kind of feel where this is going. There are a lot of bag holders. You need to be aware of that. All these people who bought in here held it after we hit these highs. They held it and we dropped and dropped and dropped. I'm sure there are a lot of bag holders in all of this red. Okay, so you have to be mindful that people are probably going to be taking profits as this gains some momentum, which could drive the price back down. You can see here we're on the yearly chart, 1 year, 1 day, and we're almost to the overbought side here on the RSI. We're not yet, but we're close. So just keep that in mind. We still might have a little bit of momentum in this move that could take us up to 4. I wouldn't be shocked. But again, in the last 4 days, we're up over 30%. So just keep that in mind. We're also sitting at a resistance that we could not pop through today by even a penny. So to see us pull back down, say to the 325 or 312 mark, I would not be too surprised. So let's take it back in, and I'll draw out all these supports and resistances. So you can see we have the 350 here. So let's draw in the 325 roughly. Okay, I missed that one there. So let's move that one down. Right in here. See, it kind of was choppy back and forth. That's why I'm moving it down, right around that 325 mark. The next one would be right in here. So this would be more of a resistance zone. Oh, I missed it entirely. So right in here. So this would be like a resistance or a support zone, excuse me, a support zone. If we were to come back down, again, this is like a 6% to 10% drop in here. If we were to retrace back down, so this would be like a support zone. If we don't hold this, at that point, I think we would come back down and see this 3 mark because it was kind of just a big push. You can see, once we broke through that 280 mark right here this day, and we rallied after hours and pre-market all the way up, it was really just kind of like an air pocket. So there's really not a whole lot before you see this $3 mark. So if we break through this little support zone, we might see 3. But on the flip side, again, if we keep moving up right in here, so if we keep pushing above this 350 mark, we could see it push all the way up to 4 with maybe a little bit of resistance here around the 380 mark, which again, I mean, that's a good little chunk. If we were to move from here up to, say, 380, that's another 8%. And if we were to move all the way up to 4, you're talking another 13%. But, I mean, just keep your risk-reward ratio intact or smart. You're looking at a potential 13% upside, but we could come down here to say at the highest, if we were to bounce off 325, it's an 8% drop. If we were to come down here to say 312, it's about an 11% drop. Down here to 3, it's about a 14% drop. So we're right there in the middle with this price. So I'd like to see it again. It's overbought at the moment, so I'd like to see it come down just a little bit and then maybe gain some consolidation, some support at a lower level, and then push higher. So let's go ahead and move on over to Tesla. So Tesla, I'll try and make this brief. I see I'm already 10 minutes into this video, but Tesla sitting here, have this trend line drawn up from our lows. You can see we bounced off of it right in here a couple of times, and then we bounced off of it when we had the report for deliveries for Tesla. We bounced off of it here, and we're sitting on it again, and we're also here on the 4-hour chart sitting on the 50-day moving average. So I'd like to see this bounce and hopefully come back up to this 240 mark. If we make it through the 240 mark, I'm going to zoom this out a little bit. If we make it through the 240 mark, my next little target would be right in here around the 248. So anywhere from, say, right in here, 247, 246 to 250 is going to be my next little resistance zone. Again, with this little spiked high around 245. So it's really just kind of like a resistance zone right in here, anywhere from 245 to 250 if we were to make it up, bouncing off this trend line. But let's say we were to fail this trend line and we were to start moving downward here on Tesla. And again, this would be breaking the 230 support. So right in here, right around this 230 mark. This is a support. You can see it acted somewhat of a support here. We failed it and came and made our lows, came back up, almost tapped it here, and sold back down, tapped it, sold down, tapped it, and then finally broke through it. So right now it's acting as a support. You can see in the past it's acted as a resistance. So if we break below it significantly, look to see it act as a resistance if we try and push back up above it. Right now it's acting as a support, but if we were to fail down below 230, I'd like to see us hold right around here in the 225 level. If not, this is really just a support zone. You can see all of this consolidation after multiple weeks. I would not like to see us swiftly move through this. That would be a very bearish sign here on Tesla. But if we were to make it down into these levels, I'd like to see us start to consolidate and maybe gain some support and then move back up. But if that does not occur, if we keep moving lower, again, this is kind of just a support zone. So right in here around, I'd say right below the 220 mark, so right around here, around 218, we can put a support. Right in here around 210 is a support, and if we make it all the way down there within the course of this week, I think we'll need to reevaluate where Tesla is going. You can see we're not really overbought at the moment. PPO is decent. So I'd like to see us bounce into tomorrow and maybe head back up towards this 240 level. And if we get there, kind of judge and see where it is we're going to go from there. But, again, I would really recommend doing your own due diligence here on either NIO or Tesla or whatever you're trading, so that you really have a good understanding of what you're trading before you get into it, so you don't have too much emotion in play when you are trading. So that's just a brief little rundown of both NIO and Tesla. Hopefully it helps and you guys gain something from it. So thank you for watching.